But here, I'm going to turn off my fan. It's hot in my
I know. It was
office.
like you have like the glamour.
I know, I've
like,
got like
float.
this thing going on. Kelsey, thank you so much for doing this with us. So
Sure.
your YouTube channel is known as Premier Gal, and
Yes.
there's a lot of people who have gone to you to learn how to use, you know, Adobe Premiere and how to do all these effects and things. And let's start off by talking what responsibilities you have. I know you've got the YouTube channel.
Yeah, I mean, well, I started out doing my YouTube channel when I was working full time as a video editor for a larger organization. And I kind of did it as like a side passion. And I started it as just like a sole proprietor. So if you're editing, you basically, in terms of like business formation stuff, like you use your own personal social security number as a sole proprietor. Which isn't great because it's more complicated to have to deal with all the deductions and all of that. So when I was starting the YouTube channel, adding that, it was like a lot more complicated to do my taxes. So I decided to form a business around that once I grew, just to make it easier. You have your business credit cards, you have your articles of formation, and it seems overwhelming at first, but it just makes it so much easier to do your business. So that's like the business side of things, is why I chose to do that. But to get there, obviously, it took a lot of research. It took a lot of late nights. And honestly, I love teaching and I love media literacy. I loved video editing. I obviously was working in it, and I just grew this passion for teaching. And I thought, why not try a YouTube channel? Because I didn't really feel like I was the vlogging type. So how can I create a channel that's more like centered around what I find interesting, and totally geeking out about editing tips, audio tips, photos, and just continuing learning as a person in general. Like each week I'm like researching, doing stuff. And like, if you're not doing that, you can kind of just like hit kind of like a low point where you're not creatively energized in your full-time job. So luckily, I was able to, with a lot of hard work, not just luck, you still have to put in the hard work. I was able to grind it and get sponsors and work with people and make sponsorship and affiliate marketing as a core part of the business model, to be able to go full time and do it full time, with the help of a little bit of ad revenue. But YouTube ad revenue is not enough, at least for my channel type, to just say, okay, I'm going to work full time just with ad revenue, no sponsorships and stuff. So yeah, that's kind of where we're at right now.
How did you go about getting sponsorships? Did you go out and find them? Did they find you?
In the beginning, I was just reaching out to companies saying, hey, like I really want to try your software, or I heard somebody commented on one of my YouTube videos saying, hey, we want to learn how to use this particular plugin. And I would reach out to those companies and they would send me the free product and I would do a tutorial. And then I developed that relationship with them to the point where they were able to say, okay, let's work on some sort of like agreement together and let's test it out to see what is the return on investment, the ROI. And yeah, I developed that trust. And eventually, you know, I start getting inquiries every day now through my website. Different partners coming in say, hey, we think you have a great reach. You know, we'd love to work together. And then that's where my business partner and I, we just kind of sit down. Anya, who's my partner, she takes care of all of the email inquiries right now, sponsorship requests, and I handle most of like the creativity. I still run it by her, but I'm like the host of the show now. So yeah, that's basically how it works now. People are coming to us, and honestly, it's hard to keep up now. At this point, it's kind of what I feel is like the most important to share. Like you can't obviously take all of the requests that you get. You kind of have to filter them, figure out if I like the product even, you know, because you don't want to share stuff that is lame or like, you know what I mean? Like you
No.
want to investigate it. You want to make sure it's a solid company, something, and you have to measure that success. Like, is it worth your time? Sometimes even if you get a great deal, it may not even be worth it from the amount of time and stress of working with that client if they turn out not to be the best communicators, you know? So you really have to value your time, especially when you're kind of just like a small team.
Okay. Tell me about your team. Like how many people do you work with? Do you have like a you said you had like a business partner. How many people work with you on this? And also, how much of your time do you use for the YouTube channel part, and how much is dedicated to work, other non-YouTube work things?
So the entire business is really, I mean, it is centered around YouTube, but occasionally I'll do like speaking engagements. But like 98% of it, 99% of it is just producing the YouTube content. And it's me and Anya doing the daily, weekly videos. And I recently just onboarded an intern that's helping me with editing the social teasers of my content. Um, but yeah, like it's a lot, like, because I'm still editing like my whole videos, and I'm getting to the point where I'm like, I think I should hire an editor. So, I'd love to do that. It's just, it's about finding the right person, and that somebody that you can trust, that gets your style. I think it's even harder because I'm an editor myself, so I think I have a higher
Like,
standard.
how
So
do you
it's like,
let go of that? Like, editing is my favorite part. To let go of that just sort of feels a little uncomfortable. How is it if that's your favorite part?
yeah. Yeah, I mean, I'm in that process right now. It's currently going on in my head. So like you're totally right. It's about letting go of that creativity aspect because it's something that I do love, but it's getting to the point now where I'm starting not to love it because it's too much. So it's like you need to delegate things and figure out what you're best at. And like I think I'm getting pretty good at sort of like bigger picture planning. So it's like time for me to maybe occasionally edit and just, delegate a lot more to other people. I know a lot of YouTubers do it. I just really have to sit down, look at some resumes, and kind of just like maybe do a tweet out saying, hey, I'm kind of interested in this. Like, does anybody want to chat? And maybe go from there.
Okay. Like, what percent of your time is dedicated to YouTube versus other jobs that you have?
I mean, I'm just doing full-time YouTube right now.
Oh, okay. Because I thought that you had
Yeah.
done. Okay. Wow, that's
Yeah,
pretty
it's a hundred
great.
per. Yeah, it's 100% YouTube right now, and it's just doing about 4 videos a month, roughly. And it takes about a full week to produce one video. Sometimes I'll cram in a couple, and it's a lot to do a couple. But yeah, it's just full-time YouTube right now.
That makes me feel so much better. I feel like mine are taking so long to do. It's like it should take just like 10, 20 minutes, and apparently
Yeah,
that's not realistic.
no, it's not at all. I think people way underestimate. And like if you have people in a team that can like edit, like I'm sure you could probably get good at like filming a bunch in one day and then just like offloading it once you have a good process. But to get to that process where it's seamless takes a lot of work to get there.
Like, how far ahead in advance do you plan?
So when it comes to planning out content for the year, working with Anya, scheduling content and like getting a sponsor for each video, it can work up in advance. Like our schedule gets full really fast. So like we're starting to schedule content for January 2021 and early February 2021 now, which isn't that far ahead, but we try to have like a few more months in advance just so we can like get our signed agreements and everything. It's really important to get signed agreements too, because if somebody bails, you don't want to be left like, well, what am I supposed to do? Like it's really important to get a like template contract. And you can just like Google contracts, or like you can base it off of other contracts. And then we try to do one video a week. Sometimes we'll do two, depending on how busy our schedule is. And yeah, we just kind of go with the flow, talk each week which partners we want to work with. And then once we get the partner sponsor spot secured, we start to think about the content. And usually that's like down to the wire. Like the week and a half before, I'm like, okay, what are we going to do? Like, let's write the script, let's send it to them to review. And then the day before, I usually send it to them. If they have any edits, great, I'll quickly do it. If not, then we're good to publish. So it's kind of a little bit crazy, but I kind of love it because it's like thrilling. Like, oh, it just got that one. I work really well when I have a deadline,
I like, you feel like you're getting stuff done. It's like you're
Yeah.
accomplishing something. Yeah. No,
Yeah.
I get it. I get it.
Yeah.
Let's talk a little bit about earlier. Like, when did you start figuring out that you were interested in media or video or editing?
It was actually by accident that it happened. I was in high school, but I went to a public high school in the Bay Area of California, and they offered this free media academy and also a physics academy. So if you were a junior in high school, you could say, hey, like I really want to focus on uh, let's say physics. I want to become an architect. And like that's what I thought I wanted to do. And I accidentally, I don't know how it happened, I enrolled in the media academy instead when I thought that I was going into physics. And
That's
I
kind
just,
of a jump. Physics, media.
yeah. Well, I was keeping my options open. I've always had issues with like figuring out what I wanted to do. You know, it's a lot for like a teenager to be like, oh, what
Yeah.
am I gonna do with my life? I feel like we're always figuring that out. So I was like, yeah, media, let's try it out. Once I went in the first day, and I really loved my teachers. I had loved editing. We got to do like small video projects with like our social studies and English. And they really were like teaching us media literacy as like young 16, 17-year-olds, which is super important today. Um, and I was like, yeah, I think I want to do this. I like telling stories. I like editing. I like the groove that I get. I like the feeling I get. So I applied to college to film and media studies programs. And honestly, I'm lucky that I had that accident because I've just loved doing media ever since.
Yeah. So after you finished the high school thing, then where did you go from there?
From there, I went to UC Santa Barbara, which was a great school, really close to the beach, good work
Oh my
life
goodness.
personal balance. And I went to the film and media studies program there. I got into a couple different UC programs. I think what happened was I think I got a certain grade point average in my high school where they had a program where you were guaranteed to get into at least one UC school. And I chose UC Santa Barbara because I didn't get into UCLA. It was super competitive time. It was like 2006, 2007 when I was applying, very competitive. And when I got in, I was pleasantly surprised. Like they had a great curriculum. I got to do some production classes and a lot of history and film theory, like going back to the beginnings of when the first films were made, to the silent films, to the talkies, and really got to dive into some international cinema too, like Chinese cinema, Indian films. It was really an amazing program. So if you guys are listening and you're like, I want to go to school, like I would really recommend the school because everybody there was so nice. It wasn't like a competitive vibe either, like, oh, I'm going to be the next best director. It was like, yo, what's up? Let's go chill and let's make a film together. And it was, it was a good experience.
It sounds like the
And
kind of low-key place you can actually excel without worrying about what everybody else is doing.
yeah, because it's stressful, college, and like to have an environment where that just, I guess, is more chill, it can help you thrive. At least for me, it worked. Um, but yeah, from there, I actually did go on to get my graduate degree. That's where ended up on the East Coast for a bit. I went to Georgetown, and it was this MA program called Communication, Culture, and Technology. It's a very unique interdisciplinary program where you
Yeah.
kind of like can choose your own path. And I decided to film, not to film, but I did film in it. I did a documentary and like anthropology mix where I did sort of like a documentary film studying like ethnography, which is like the way in which you can study a group of people through analysis. It's complicated, but it was really cool experience to kind of push myself in that higher education. It was completely different than UC Santa Barbara, like 180 degree, but it definitely helped give me my first job directly out of graduate school.
Wow, that's pretty great. And then from there, your
I
friend,
worked for
sorry.
the US government. So I
That was
worked
it, the
for,
government.
yeah, which is military, still part of the government.
Yeah.
They do have a lot of communications job in the military, which I was surprised by. A lot of like photography and like video editing stuff, which is pretty cool. But was at the State Department, which was in DC because Georgetown is in DC. So I applied to this job through a friend that said that there was this opening. It was the public affairs team, and there was a digital communications team for the Bureau of Educational and Cultural Affairs.
Oh, wow.
So they do international exchange programs. So if you know the Fulbright program,
Yes.
so the Fulbright program is one of one of like the elite programs that this department sponsors. So
Okay.
people go and study abroad and they have this great experience. They wanted somebody to be able to tell their stories. So I was a video producer editor, and I would like interview these people. And I worked with one other gal. Her name was Jenny. And she I think she still works at the State Department, but not at that particular office. And we just tag team, we split the programs, and we just went out and we like filmed everything and we edited these stories. And it was a great first time gig because I got to get my hands on so many different things. I got to do trainings with the staff there, which is hence why I really liked the YouTube training concept. I got to do the interviews in person with people that spoke different languages. I worked with translation teams. I did several videos a week. It was just a great way to really build up my portfolio. And I think after some time, I was just like not feeling it there anymore. Cause you know how you can get into a job
Yes.
and like have that groove kind of go down. And some of the team members had left too, which kind of puts a damper on it. Cause like you get used to like working with those team members and like they move on. And
Sure.
I was like, like I've always wanted to start my own business. Maybe now is the time, because I had applied to jobs as I'm sure a lot of people do, and they just don't get it. So it's like, if they're not going to take it, then I'll just go out and do my own thing. And that's what I did.
What prompted the jump to YouTube creator? Because
Mm-hmm.
I remember watching one of your videos where you were like, I'm starting this channel, I've left my job, I'm doing this now. Talk about what that was like.
Well, it was scary at first because you don't know like if you're going to get the income that you need. And like I would highly recommend before you make that jump to be sure that you do have some set income guaranteed in the pipeline. So like I was lucky to have been developing it for a year or so, and I still had the comfort of another job. So if you're starting a passion project, and not everybody has this luxury, but you know, try to do it when you have that job going at least, so you can have like a side gig that you're working on. But then I was lucky enough to have a support system. My parents had a backyard apartment, and I was like, Mom, Dad, like, I really want to pursue this. And my dad was like, you got to do it. Like, you got to follow your passion, and I'm really lucky to have
Yeah.
parents that are really supportive. And they're like, yeah, just come here and move and live here until you can get off your feet and can feel more comfortable. Uh, so you ask for help. Like, don't be afraid to ask for help from people, and trust yourself as much as you can. Um, you started something for a reason, and just keep going back to that reason and trusting yourself. And just think about, if you didn't take that risk, you would still be stuck wherever you weren't before.
What fears came up as you were going through this, and how did you learn to overcome them, or did you overcome them? Are you still living with them?
Um, I think that I think my biggest fear was, and I think a lot of people deal with this, especially in my age group, of just like we have additional like student loans to pay off. So like for me, it was like, having to pay off a hefty amount of my graduate loans was like a big stress for me. Because if I didn't have that, then I feel like I would be less stressed about it. But also like, despite the financial side, I think also like, am I doing this the correct way? Like, for example, there's a lot of times where like people are like, oh, you didn't do it the right way, there's this way, like, and like I actually worked with a partner who actually told me, like, worked really closely with me, because she was really, really nice. She was like, yeah, like more people are more critical of women online than men. So she was like, she reviewed everything to make sure it was 100% accurate, or if she felt anything I said could be open up to ridicule, she was like, maybe you should uh, explain this a little bit different way. And that experience there really taught me that I'm verifying everything that I'm sharing. Because it's not so much about an insecurity. It's more like, I don't want to deal with those people online that are like, oh, you could have done it this way, But it's like,
And you do deal with that, because I've
I
seen the
still, yeah,
comments.
yeah.
So I was
Great
just kind of wondering.
tutorial. Actually, I think one comment I got was, it was so ridiculous. I think it went into my spam because it included the word like hater or hate or something. And somebody said, I hate you because you're a woman, but great tutorial, thanks. And I was like, what? And then there's some people, and then the comment right below that was like, I love female creators because they can do everything. They're the best. Like, and I was like, what is this? Like, it's such a weird dichotomy. But I don't really worry about them too much. And I think that over time as a creator, you overcome what people think so much. And you're just like, I'm just sharing this. I'm creating this for the audience that I want to be on my channel, not for pleasing everybody.
Sure.
So I still deal with it all the time though.
And that was another question I wanted to ask, because I remember I looked on one of your interviews from a while back. You did an interview with Master Adobe trainer Louisa Winters.
Yeah.
A long time ago. And one of the things I remember she saying was that to be a woman in this field, to be treated the same, and by this field, I mean like the media, YouTube, field. In order to be a woman in this field, to be treated the same, you have to be better. And I was just curious kind of what your experience has been like being a woman in a field that is kind of overrun with guys.
Yeah, I think, there's a lot of male YouTubers out there that have been super supportive of the channel, and some people that even look up to my channel, which is great to get those messages from the other creators out there that are male. But Louisa Winters, what she said, I mean, she comes from a different generation than me. And thankfully, because of her hard work, she's made it so much easier for us to excel. There's a lot more work to be done to create equality in the field. But yeah, I think it comes down to like just more and more role models coming out there and making more content. I see more and more coming out, and everybody, all the female creators that I see out there are rocking it. Like, I just feel like if more of us would take the time to go do it and overcome that sort of fear, I think we could get there. But it's a more complicated issue than that. Like, I'm not sure if I'm saying it correctly the way I want it to, but it's really a complicated issue because it comes down to time. If you have kids and stuff like that, it's just it's an issue about the timing, I think. But
Like,
you
why do
know,
you think because when I first started looking into doing on YouTube, I noticed like 99% of the tutorials were done by guys. And they were all the same kind of guys. They were young, they were cool, they were good looking, except, different facial hair, different hats, but they were all like the same from the same planet. And
and it's a small world too. Like, they're all friends for the most
yeah,
part. Well, at least they like know of each other.
right.
And you start to meet them at like events, and I've met a lot of them, and they're all like really nice. But it's like, I guess it's like, it's kind of like, what are those things? What do you call it? Like an echo chamber effect. I don't know if that's the correct term for this, but you know how like somebody shares something and you're like, oh, I want to add to that, and it kind of becomes its own. Like, I want to be like those people, or I want to like do something that's successful because I've seen them be successful at it. So maybe it's just like not copying, but
It feeds
like,
itself.
yeah, I mean, I think that copying is like a form of admiration, not like copy like word for word, but like trying to emulate
Emulating.
something.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's a form of endearment, and I think that's what happens in this community. But like for me, like sometimes I feel like, oh, like I wish I could just be like some of the funny stuff I did, like I feel like if I was a dude, maybe it would come across better. I'm not sure, but like I don't I think that for the most part it comes down to trying to be yourself. And if you are yourself, whether you're male or female, uh, people will see that, and they'll see that you're passionate about that. But being yourself is like really difficult on camera, because you know how it is. You turn on the camera, you're like, what?
Yeah, suddenly you're
you
like
know?
on the spot.
So it takes time, and like I still feel like I'm working on that, because sometimes I feel like I have to be like perfect, like, oh, welcome to the channel, got to say it perfectly, can't mess up, and like got to get into it quickly because then people won't want to watch or something, and I want to keep it as tight and compact as possible. So when you try to think about all that stuff, then you forget about yourself and like your personality sometimes. So my hope is that more women will come into the tutorial space, because I feel like a lot of people like the tutorials that I do and the ones that like Atola Visuals, Lizzie Pierce are doing, and they do some vlog content too. But I think it comes down to industry too. And industry at the end of the day, most of the video editors and motion designers in the field are what, like 90% male. So you
Yeah.
get more people teaching that, you know,
I noticed
male.
that when I was looking on your channel, I would look at a lot of the videos that you made, and the ones that seem to be the most get the most likes, the most views are the ones are the technical how-to videos.
Yes,
How
exactly.
to do this effect, how to use this piece of equipment. And I've noticed that it seems like the tech is what the guys are really interested in. You know, and then you've done stories, you've done interviews, you
Yeah,
know,
and
as
I
well on
didn't
your
do those
channel.
because they didn't do well.
And
I
they didn't
stopped doing.
know. And those
No.
are the first ones I went to because I was like, how did they get there? What happened? And the how they got
Yeah.
there, I think, is
I
not.
kind of I kind of feel like that was my kind of my interview stage. Like I had just started my channel and I was like interested in talking with people about their experience. And I feel like that was part of my process. But yeah, nobody wanted to watch me sit down. But if you're like super big, like for example, Marquise Brownlee, he does like a big tech channel. He has a huge following, and he sat down with like Elon Musk
Oh my goodness.
of like Tesla and did a whole interview, and he got millions of views, and it was just like kind of like an interview, like not much happening, but people were interested in that because it's Elon Musk, and it was Marcus Brownlee. So I think you can do those interview styles. You just need to make sure it's done with in a timely manner with somebody that's trending in the world. And, you know, it's kind of
Sure.
trending right now, Tesla, with all their new innovations.
Right.
But yeah, tech, how to, and stuff that like people are searching for on Google does really well on my channel. And some tech stuff doesn't do as well as others. It's YouTube. Sometimes it just doesn't pick up in the algorithm. And like a few months later, it'll exponentially grow. And I have no idea why. No idea.
So now you are like a full-time YouTuber. Talk about what having a channel like that with that many views and subscribers, like what does it really mean? Do you get more popular, more
Yeah.
work, you know, luxury chartered jets, you know, that kind of like what does that mean like to people who are
Yeah.
like, what's a YouTuber like?
I think that it's I mean, you just live and breathe your work for the most part. And then only recently I got my weekends back. You really work a lot, and it's hard to to stop. Like editing takes a long time, and like I think most of the time we're always thinking about the next thing that we're going to do. It's like really a labor of love what you're doing, and like, you know, some people publish many times a week, so they're just constantly grinding, you know. But for me, I mean, I try to have that work life balance now, and it took me, you know, a few years to get there. Like, for example, I'll plan out a video, have to edit it, try to get it done in the week, and then I do the same thing the next week. And if I'm going on vacation, I'll try to do that, but twice the amount of work in 1 week to then take off the week before. But it is nice because you choose your own schedule too, but you have to be careful about where to put the boundaries on your work-life balance because you're the boss, right?
Sure.
Um, but it has been nice here in Europe because I'm here abroad here living with my partner, and we, you know, we have to decide. We're like, oh, we want to go travel. We want to go visit our friends in Germany. Oh, I got to grind to get these 3 client videos done because all my videos have one sponsor in it, and they have like a reserved date. So we're like, okay, we need to get this done. We need to send it to them to review in time. And then I'll usually bring my laptop wherever I travel and just be ready to upload. And then we decided to extend our vacation because of YouTube, which is great. So we decided to go to Prague to visit Prague for a few days. So there is this luxury of like being able to travel if you work hard in advance and like prep the content beforehand. So I would say overall, it's a pretty nice lifestyle. Just you need to learn when to just like say no and put some rail guards on.
Do people send you stuff like free stuff? Will you do this
Yeah, I
every
mean,
often?
a lot of people will be like, oh, like, you know, we have this new product. We were wondering if you wanted to do a review on it. And, Yeah, if we think the product is something our audience would agree with, then we'll say yes, send it on over. And sometimes I'm like, don't I don't want any more equipment, because sometimes I'll be like, I just because I want to have like a minimalist set of the stuff that I need, because if it gets too much, it gets like cluttered, and I don't need that extra clutter. So, but yeah, it's great to be able to have that opportunity. I mean, I'm grateful for it, honestly.
Yeah, that is, I mean, it's a really nice thing to be able to have.
Yeah.
Two more questions. Looking back at your experience, what do you wish you would have known, or is there anything you would have done differently when you were starting out?
Um, it's a good question and a complicated one. I think it's like, I don't think I regret or would have changed anything that I've done so far, because it's all a part of the journey to where I can get to. I think I would just wish that I would have trusted myself a little bit more and not stress over projects when I know things just get done and they get done. Um, I think that's my main advice, is like, if you're running behind on a project, like there's no problem in just, talking with your client and communicating with them and just keeping them up to date on everything, and like not waiting till the last minute to be like, I'm so sorry, but I need to like change this date or something. Like, instead it's just like being like more open to the fact that life is not linear, and like, you're not a robot, and just do you, and like creativity will come. Because there's a few times when a project just went terribly wrong, and I filmed it and I did the whole video and I was like, this is not what I wanted. I just wrote to the client and was like, okay, let's just change it. Is it okay if we push it out? I'm just going to redo the whole thing. And it ended up being so much better. I did this, it was this Joby one. I'm sure you can
Mhm.
look it up. It was a stop motion animation, and Joby sponsored the video, and it's a Joby Gorilla Pod. And they wanted me to showcase the new like aluminum legs that they had, that's more sturdy. It's more for like filmmakers and creators. And I did this whole thing where I like walked around the city and was like, yeah, and you can like tie it to a pole and do all of this and put it on an electronic scooter and go around the city. And it just wasn't really my style, and it just felt awkward. So then I was like, no, no, no. Let's do like a cool stop motion animation with the Joby. I can briefly talk about it and then show how to do a stop motion animation in Premiere Pro. And it was way more my style. Um, so like, that's an example of what I learned through the process. The client will appreciate it more if you're doing it in your style and you're not like stressed about it, and you just communicate that.
Do you ever put out stuff that you're like, oh, I hate this, or I could have done this so much better? Or do you look back at your things that you've done and gone, oh, I would
Oh,
have done this differently?
oh yeah. I think all of us do that. Like, come on. I mean, I watched this video is doing well now that I did like a few years ago. It's called like source patching. It's some technical thing where like if you drag and drop your video into your timeline and the video is not showing up and you're like, why isn't it showing up? It's this little button that you press to turn it back on. And for some reason, this video is doing well. And I hate my background. It looks like I'm in a garage. The lighting is terrible. And I was like, why did I film myself like this? I think in the beginning, I was so concerned about just getting content out that I was like, oh, I'll just film it like this. It doesn't matter. And I think that's still a good approach to have. But like now I'm more like, I want to make it look as nice as possible, make sure the sound is as nice as possible before I film. Um, but yeah, I have to deal with it because it's up there and I guess it's doing well. So I don't want to take it down, but it's like cringy to see that.
Yeah, I see things that I make and I'm just like, oh. And
Yeah, you're your worst critic,
yeah,
right?
you are. And I also have to remind myself, it's like, people have lives. They have like 10 seconds on looking at this video, and then they're not thinking about it anymore. They're thinking about, the million other things they have to deal with. And so
Totally.
there's a there's a balance there in your
Yeah.
mind you have to do. So my last question, what advice would you give to women who want to be shreditors? And I love that term.
Shooter, editor, producer. Because there is a term called predator, which doesn't
Oh
sound as
no.
great. The predator editor. And actually, they hire for those positions. When I was leaving the State Department, I saw that, I think the Marriott International, actually, I saw this job listing. It says, we're hiring a predator. And I was like,
Ah,
what? That's not a good term. And then I was like, oh, yeah, they're looking for somebody that does it all, you
that is
know?
an unfortunate name.
I mean, I feel like you just have to be so like flexible and open to change. Like a lot of people say like, "Oh, just focus on one thing and get good at that good thing." But you really need to, in today's world, you need to kind of have your hand in a lot of different skills. Like you need to learn about SEO, you need to learn about script writing, you need to learn some tech stuff, and like you got to constantly keep up to date with all of that stuff. And I went to a lot of conferences, I did a lot of trainings, I'm constantly learning about stuff. So when you're in that type of role, you just got to kind of be interested in all of those different things to excel. Because when I was at the State Department, that was really my role. I was a Shredditor. And just trust yourself, like do your research before a shoot. Like if you have one camera, get to know that camera really, really well so you know everything to do with it. Don't worry about trying to get the next best gear. All you need is a basic DSLR and good lighting and good sound, and you're good to go. Um, and yeah, just ask questions, work with other people as much as you can. You don't want to isolate yourself. You need to build bridges with other creators. Even if you're a YouTuber, like occasionally reach out, DM people that are creators just to stay in contact, especially now in this age. Like I know when COVID really hit, like I felt like I was like video chatting with people more actually, and I was
Sure.
more social before, or like I was more social with COVID than I was before, which was really weird. So continue, like, don't isolate yourself, build friendships, build mentors like Louisa Winters and Christine Steele. I still have them as contacts, as people that I could reach out to if I have questions about something, because they've been in the industry for a long time.
Are there any YouTubers that you watch or admire or learn from, or
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of I wouldn't say that I'm like close with them, but like I can like feel like I can DM them and just say, "Hey, I really like this." Valentina V, she's doing really cool like filmmaking stuff. She has a growing TikTok, I think, community that she started. She does like little cool edits where she like transformed her room into like this apocalyptic, like COVID scene where somebody was like glued to a screen, and it was like this looping video, and she showed the process of how she made it. And she's just a really great cinematographer and filmmaker. There's Atola Visuals Kitty. She's really, really lovely, nice. I met her once when we went to Sony Camera Camp last September. But other than that, she'll reach out to me and say, "Hey, are you still using the software? Like, I want to know." Or like, "Hey, this company reached out. I know that you worked with them. What was the process like?" And we just like communicate like that. Lizzie Pierce, I don't really stay in contact with her that much, but she has some really great work, and I really admire her style and the fact that she's so like, yeah, like just chill on camera, and I feel she's so comfortable that I like look up to her style. And what's her name? I'm totally blanking on it, but she did this whole course called Advanced Selfie. Sorel Amore, I think is her last name. She's Australian, but she like travels and lives everywhere, and she just seems like so cool on camera. And you should definitely check her out. She's really,
okay.
really cool gal, and she has like a massive following on Instagram. So go check her out.
Thank you so much for doing this.
Yeah, sure.
It was really wonderful talking to you. Again, as I was just looking and trying to do my journey of, film and video and YouTube and all of
Hmm.
that, it was really hard to find women in YouTube who are doing tutorials, who are teaching these things.
Hmm.
And I'm really grateful to the dudes who I'm learning everything from, but there's just a different perspective from hearing it from another woman. It's like it's just a different flavor, and it's
For
really
sure.
impactful and helpful. So
Yeah. No, no problem. And I'm sure like I mean, I know the guys that I work with too. I'm working on this course right now with I'm sure you've probably seen one of his videos, Orange 83. Have you
yes,
seen any of his content? So his name is Nate, and Nate is working all the time too. Like we're trying to get this course done, and we keep having to postpone stuff because he's like doing wedding shoots too, and he's like doing weekly videos, and it's yeah, he's dealing with it just the same as us. And like he was super cool too when like my dog passed in June and we had to postpone everything. And um yeah, it it's life, you know, life comes and like, you know, everybody has to deal with stuff going on, and it's just about, you know, you know, making the friends that'll support you along the way, and
Yeah.
clients too, especially sponsors. Like I can tell you, like so many of them I was like, I have to take off like all this time, and I postponed like everything by like 2 months. So it's amazing how like if you get all nervous, like, oh my god, it's a client, a deadline, and stressed about it, but like they're human too and they understand. So it's really
Yeah.
cool.
So I one of the people in this Media Empress group just started teaching a group of 13-year-old, 14-year-old girls
Hmm.
film, in a film course. Um, is there anything that you think, if you were going to give them advice, what advice would you give that age of girl who was looking at?
I guess just have as much fun as you can, and if you come up with an idea for something that you love and want to create, just keep going with it as long as you can. Like don't doubt yourself and shut it down because you think it's dumb or people won't like it or something. Because there were so many little projects I did when I was younger that I wish I would have just like continued with or like kept writing. Because there's so many times you can say, oh, it's just not good enough, or it's just like fun with my friends, but you know, continue with it. You know, I made these silly little commercials to book reports I did when I was in middle school. Like I did like, it was so weird. I did this funny like book report style with my friends, and we filmed it on one of those like really old VHS camcorders. And I don't have a copy of it. I would die to have a copy of it. It's so funny thinking about the memories. But I did like, we had the book report and then we put in our own commercials, like random commercials for granola and yogurt. Like what? Like I was just like this 13-year-old, like probably just like, yeah, let's film this funny granola and yogurt spot for our book report, like a television series.
I hope you
And
got an
yeah, like
awesome grade for that.
we probably did. The teachers probably dying and like all laughing about it in the teachers lounge. But it's, you know, it's about building those relationships with your friends too. Like every time I worked on a film project with people, lasting memories. So like pursue those projects as much as possible when you're younger, because you never know, like that relationship will come in a professional setting when you guys are older, and you will always have that bond of like laughing and creating when you're younger that will last like your whole life. So
Cool. I'll wrap it up here. Again, thank you so much for doing this. I appreciate your time, and I will keep watching your channel and learning how to do stuff.
yay, yay, thank you so much.
Yeah.